Hello, climate champions. Welcome to another episode of the Climate Network with me, Deepsha Dhar. Today's guest is back on popular demand. Padma Ma'am is presently the Deputy Inspector General of Forest Central, Regional Office, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Welcome back to the Climate Network, ma'am.
Thank you.
In our last conversation, we discussed forest conservation, wildlife and communities. So today, I want to start by asking you about development. We keep talking about sustainable development in today's narrative. India is on a rampant development spree, and even though the government has promised greener fuels, our dependency on forest and fossil fuels is still very strong, still very heavy. What, according to you, is the impact of development on local ecosystems and how are we to balance it?
Very good question, Deepsa. We are, as a country, we are in the phase of development. There is no doubt about it. And we are aspiring for a 5 trillion economy. So when you're talking about development and you're talking about the local economy, how it is impacted. So when you talk about development, what exactly comes to your mind? It comes as roads, it comes as more railway networks, more mobile towers, more people migrating to cities in search of opportunities, in search of jobs, more sky rises coming up, and maybe more wetlands vanishing, more ponds vanishing, and more rivers getting polluted, the water bodies getting polluted, the lakes vanishing or the lakes getting polluted. So this is what, when I think of development, this is an image that I think of. And whenever there's a highway project or there is a huge linear project, then it cuts across forest land also. And when you talk about forest land, not only the land goes, the trees are also cut. So there is deforestation. And with development, what happens if you talk about the local ecology, then many species are just vanish from that local ecosystem. Many people, they have to leave that place or their land is taken over. So they have to migrate to other places or they have to rehabilitate to other places. They leave their own vocations, which they have been doing for over years. If their agriculture land goes, they have to migrate in search of job. They have no land which they can call their own. With that, a part of their culture goes, a part of their tradition goes, a part of their life goes. So this is the fallout of development. And development is here to stay. We have to accept development, but we also have to accept that these are the fallouts of development. Many bird species vanish, many amphibians vanish, many types of plants vanish, many types of cultivars vanish, because we are using that particular parcel of land where these were growing or where they were habiting, the habitations of many species. We are using that particular land area or that particular plant for development. When we are in the process of development, the deforestation happens. And when there is deforestation, when there is loss of water body, definitely there is rise in temperature. So the fallout of development is also climate change. Now we are seeing climate change. We are seeing pollution, airborne diseases, and we are seeing a lot of noise pollution also. So all this is again a fallout of development. So that is how I feel that once there is development, the local economy drastically changes, the local ecosystem drastically changes. People leave that area, and so what it was maybe 20 years back is something very different what you see it now. So the whole picture changes, the canvas changes. So I'll give you an example of mining. When we talk about mining was there maybe since the Rig Vedic times. Mining is not a new thing. And mining is a essentiality if we talk about development. But yes, the fallouts of mining are many. Environmental degradation, land degradation, water pollution, environmental pollution, loss of livelihood, people migrating from one place to another, and with that loss of their culture, their tradition, their own identity. So mining is here to stay, and mining has a lot of negative impacts as well. That we have to accept. Then how do you balance? that was your question, how do you balance development vis-a-vis environment, degradation, livelihood? So when you look at the mining scenario in India, and if you talk about the Forest Conservation Act 1980, for every parcel of the forest land that is diverted for mining, we compensate. There is, by rules, acts, and laws, it has to be compensated by equal amount of land, and also equal number of trees that are cut. When you cut a tree for a developmental project, be it a linear project, be it a railway project, or be it a mining project, you have to compensate the number of trees cut and the amount of land diverted. So that is called compensatory afforestation, and that is done by the Forest Department. Forest Department is a nodal agency who does that. And when we give these conditional diversions, we make it a point that whichever species of trees are cut has to be planted. And the plantations, when we divert a forest and we compensate it with a plantation, we are diverting a natural forest, but we are planting. So the plantation should be such that it should also give rise to a near natural forest. So that should be the main focus of compensatory, if the compensatory afforestations have to succeed. And the government of India has come up with very innovative schemes now. One is the accredited compensatory afforestation scheme, in which now the government of India actually encourages the private people who have non-forest land. So if you have a land parcel with you, Deepsha, which is 10 hectares or more, and you can start planting trees in that. And when the trees reach a density of zero point 0.4, then you can put it for compensatory afforestation. You can put it to the market, and suppose a company is doing mining, they can buy that parcel of land from you and they can give it as a compensatory afforestation, and the government notifies it into a forest, a reserve forest, or a protected forest. So, earlier what used to happen, if people had extra parcels of land, they would give it for development or they would give it to a builder. But now with this kind of innovative scheme, the ecosystem services are assured, and the private people also become stakeholders in conservation. So this is something very new and innovative. And there is something also called green credits, which has come up recently. You must have heard about it. It is about, the Forest Department putting forth the degraded forest land, in which a company can come and plant, an individual can come and plant, and after 2 years of this plantation, they get each credit for the tree they plant. So these are innovative schemes where, we try to balance development with conservation and ecosystem services. So we are, I think, in the right track, and we are trying our best to create that synergy between development and conservation.
Very well said. You recently came back from Germany after a UN workshop on post mining.
Yes.
For our listeners today, can you please explain what post mining restoration or development involves, and why is it essential?
Well, when we are doing mining, it's a site specific activity. So wherever there is a mineral, you are digging out the mineral and you're removing the mineral from that site. But by, again, rules, acts, and laws, once the mineral is exhausted, that particular parcel of land has to be restored to its original and handed back to the government from which it was taken as a lease. So that is mandated for each mining company to restore it to the original and give it back to the government from which it had taken lease. So that the reclamation work that leads to restoration is called the post-mining restoration or development of that particular area. So we have coal mines, we have bauxite mines, we have chromite mines, we have iron ore mines, we have, I think, if a ballpark figure, I think some 87 minerals are mined out in India. So if you talk about, when I went to Dresden, I went to Germany, and we were taken to a city called Dresden. And there we were shown different activities that go on in how a area can be restored post-mining. So in India, when we see, we have examples of primarily afforestation or creation of water bodies. Like if you talk about Chennai city, the majority of water comes from these mined out quarries. The waters, it helps them as a water retention structures. But in Dresden, we saw very interesting examples of how the post-mining, mined out areas are restored. We saw a huge lake, which has been put forth for ecotourism, with amphibious living areas, or houseboats and floating living apartments. So that was very interesting. Then we were taken to another place, which was a stone park, and a huge park has been created out of this post mined out coal mined out area. We were also taken to another area, again a coal mining area, which was restored into a forest. And then we were taken to a city, a green city, which came up on a mining area. And the last place we saw was a uranium mine, in which the water from the radioactive uranium mine is treated, and it is left into the river Albe after treated, and it is entirely fit for drinking. So these 5 examples were really, really touching, and they were eye openers that the post mining areas which need to be restored, there could be a blue economy in it, there could be a brown economy in it, there could be a green economy in it. So we can look at the post mining areas as another livelihood option for the people who have who if when we talk about just transition, this could be one of the opportunities for livelihood creation when you are designing these post mining landscapes. And we really need these post mining restorations, because Deepsha, if I spoke to you last time, I spoke to you about my stint in Periyar Tiger Reserve. And in Periyar, we are taught one thing, that is, every threat is an opportunity. So if we say that mining is a necessity, and with this mining comes a huge environmental burden, so this threat to the environment can always be created to changed into an opportunity through this post mining restoration opportunity that this parcel of land gives you once the mineral is taken out. So, post mining restoration has to be properly planned, and it needs an international perspective, because we may not have all the know how, and we need to create that nexus.
We don't have this in India, right?
We have in India, we have many examples in India, but so far as my knowledge goes, mostly it is restricted to afforestation. We have not explored the options of creating ecotourism or livelihood options out of the mined out areas. And I think mining in our own state, Odisha, it is also it's in a development phase. So for the restoration part of it, maybe it will take few more years for the mines to close and the people to start restoring the mines. There have been few examples, but I think this is the right time to plan, because for minerals like bauxite, you need a concurrent restoration, concurrent backfilling. So for such minerals, if you can plan in advance, and you have a wonderful plan keeping in view the livelihood options and the different options that can be explored in the post mining areas, taking the views of the international experts and the national level experts, but with a local implementation strategy. So then the nexus works well.
Well, how about agro mining?
You're talking about phytomining?
Phytomining,
yes,
agro
yes,
mining,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. I happen to come across certain examples which they are trying out in the United States, maybe in nickel. So when there is nickel found in a parcel of land, they grow this nickeliferous crops, and they what do they do is, after the plants are of a certain height, they would then harvest those plants, and then take like mine out the not mine out, they take out the nickel from the plants without mining out the area. So that is again an interesting research that is happening in the Western countries now.
I recently came across the term phytoremediation while I was looking for phyto mining and agro mining. Could you please explain to us the difference between the two concepts, and how are these ideas viable?
Well, Difference between these two concepts, as I understand, is phytomining is, instead of mining out the area, growing plants which absorb these metals, and then harvesting these plants and taking out the metals from them. So there is no cost involved in, the environment is not degraded by actually mining out the area. That is what is phytomining. And phytoremediation is a term where we use plants to remediate, or to clear the minerals, the heavy metals which have seeped into the soil, and so that these metals do not have health hazards, or they do not pollute the water sources, by using plants. Like, I'll give you an example of chromite mining, which I have seen phytoremediation happening in the chromite mines. So what happens is, they have this element called this hexavalent chromium, which is carcinogenic. So what happens is, when this chromite is extracted in the overburdens, the dumps, there are a lot of this, the overburdens have this hexavalent chromium. And here, if you plant certain plants like vetiver or lemongrass, this hexavalent chromium is remediated, and when the water passes through this overburdens and they come to the local streams or the water bodies, this carcinogenic material doesn't come out, is remediated through these plants. So phytoremediation is using plants to absorb the heavy metals which have a health hazard, or which have a impact on the health of the organisms, or which pollute the water body. So that is remediating the water sources, or remediating the soil through plants. That is phytoremediation.
You are giving us such new ideas and great concepts. When can we expect these in India?
No, it's happening in India. Phytoremediation is very much happening in India. Not just, I just gave you one example. Phytoremediation also happens in the form of constructed wetlands, where you plant different vegetations, and when the water passes through these layers of vegetations, the water is remediated, the water gets cleaned up. So these concepts are already there in India, but it needs to be upscaled and multiplied, and much more in use.
Are these ideas commercially viable so people can get a profit out of it, or
They
no?
are. They are. Profit out of it, in the sense, this is a new industry.
Correct.
Like, mining is an industry, remediation is also an industry, restoration is also an industry. So definitely it is commercially viable. Why not?
Can we talk about just transition? You mentioned just transition. This sounds like something that is very equitable in nature. So, how are policies ensuring that there is a just transition for people and communities that are directly affected by these changes in the mining industry?
See, just transition, what I understand is transition with justice. Right. So suppose there's a coal mine. I'll give you an example of a coal mine. So the coal mine is exhausted. People have been working in the coal mine. And if you see, you talk about women, if you talk about gender in mining, then the women become the part of the unorganized workforce. Until 2019, there were no women in the organized workforce. Now we have women engineers coming up, but still the number of women who work as casual laborers in any mines are still lot more. And what happens is, the women's health becomes a bigger issue when it comes to mining. And once, if again coming back to coal mining, once the coal is exhausted, where do these people go? What vocation they need to take up? What is their life after the life of the mine? So that is where the transition from mining, once the mining is over, to another to a livelihood which they need to adopt, is what we talk about is just transition with justice, where they need to have alternative livelihood options that has to be planned. And here I think the district mineral foundation, or the district mineral fund, that is with the district collector, or the foundation which is headed by the district collector, one of the main aims of this fund is to look at the livelihood security of the people who are in the mining industry, the unorganized sector. And I think the DMF's main role should be to address to just transition, see that just transition happens.
What are some of the long-term strategies that we can look at for ensuring this just transition, sustainable development while mitigating climate?
See, first, as I told you, this post mining restoration is the most important step now. Once the mining is over, how do you restore the area to original, keeping in view the livelihood options? That is the first and the foremost. That's a broader umbrella. That involves everything. That involves planting. That involves creation of water bodies. That creation of employment opportunities. That involves giving economic opportunity, bringing in economic opportunity to the mined out area, and so that the people around, their livelihood is ensured, the climate improves, the climate is restored back to normal. So that is the first and the foremost thing when you talk about how the sustainability can be achieved in a post mining area. But other than that, also we have this state action plan for climate change, SAPCC, if you have heard about it, and the national level we have the NAPCC, and
National
right,
Action Plan for
national
Climate.
action plan for climate change. And in Kerala we have gone one step forward, and we have integrated it at the local level, in the panchayat level and the EDC, the Eco Development Committee, and the Vanasamrakshana Samitis. We have the local action plan for climate change, which is part of the district plan, which is also part of the EDC's microplans and the VSS microplans.
Could you give
So
us the full forms?
it's an eco development committee. The committees which are of the local communities around the protected areas, they're called the eco development committees. And the committees which are around the in and around the reserve forest, they are called Vanasamrakshana Samitis. So each of these have a micro plan, which is a approved plan by which they do their activities. So we have tried to bring the local action plan for climate change to the grassroots level by integrating it with the EDC and the VSS microplans, and also with the panchayat plans. And we have trained our panchayats in climate action. So climate change is something which needs a grassroots level action, and people have to understand the climate adaptability and the climate sensitivity, and the how the climate to which they can adapt, to which the climate is sensitive, and how they can mitigate the impacts of climate change. So if the people at the grassroots level really understand these concepts, and we have a lot of traditional knowledge which can be leveraged to negate these the impacts of climate change. So that is what is something that needs to be tapped at the very very
Can
grassroots
you
and
give
local
us some
level.
examples?
Well, I'll give you a very interesting example of how we used to use this traditional knowledge to what should I say, to not negate the effect, but to really restore the ecosystem services. Many streams die down during the summer, but
Yes.
they actually revive during the monsoon, when the monsoon comes. So once in a while, when long time back, I'm talking about maybe 15 years back, when I was in Periyar, we would call the local communities who knew where the streams were, and in a day, we would fix one day where we would have a festival of creating brushwood check dams.
Okay.
And the community knew where the water sources were, and they would go there and create a brushwood check dam. So come monsoon, all the streams would come alive, and so we would have lot more streams in the area, making it just look like heaven. So these are certain traditional knowledges and traditional practices of water conservation, of getting back the lost cultivars. We have lots of cultivars which are now no more to be seen, but the local people, the local communities know where the seeds are, how to grow them. So getting back the cultivars, getting back the water sources, getting using the local knowledge in getting a lot of health benefits. So these needs to be documented, and this needs to be practiced consciously.
How do we upscale these ideas? Last time also you brought in a variety of new ideas, and now we are talking about a completely different topic altogether, and yet there are new ideas. What can we do to upscale it?
See, we can upscale it. It's not a difficult thing. I think now the forest working plans, in the new working plan code 2023, we are talking about documentation of traditional knowledge, and we are talking about documentation of traditional cultural expressions. So that is now mandated in the forest working plans. Working plans are the documents on which the forest is worked. It's a approved document. And if you talk on the global level, India was a presidency to the G20 this time, and we had the Gandhinagar implementation roadmap, the GIR, and the Gandhinagar information platform, the GIP, and where the participating countries were to voluntarily come, and traditional knowledge was the most important thing, which one of the most important things which was discussed there, and these were to support the global land initiative. That is, by 2040, 50% of the degraded land, either by forest fire or by mining, is to be restored. So that is also India's commitment and the G20 countries' commitment to the world. So we are already thinking of upscaling it at a global level, and India is also committed to it.
That is such an amazing insight that you have given us. And do you have any message for our listeners? Last time I did not ask you that. I want you to leave us with a thought.
Well, it's as I told you, I'm very positive about the future, especially because we as a country, we believe in conservation. And if you have heard this sloka which says, Samudra Vasane Devi Parvatas Tanamandale Vishnu Patni Namastavyam Padas Parshas Kshamashame. So every morning we get up to touch the mother earth with our feet, we ask for forgiveness. So when we are mining out mother earth, the mining out the minerals out of the mother earth, I think it becomes our commitment, because of our culture, to restore mother earth to her original being. And my message would be, we are a pro planet people, and as a country, I think we believe a lot in we believe in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We feel that the world is our family, and as a country we encompass everything. Every small organism also is respected. And if you talk about Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu says, I am in everything. I am part of everything. So if you talk about our scriptures, our culture, I think everything is for conservation. And if we just reinforce ourselves, or if we reiterate our past, our culture, our tradition, our way of life, I think a lot can be done, a lot can be preserved. And I think the younger generation has a great role and a responsibility in carrying it forward, and I'm sure they will.
Thank you so much, Padma Ma'am, to come down again and indulge with our questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.